Right, I've got a question for you. What business do you think you're in? I suspect there's probably lots of ways to answer this question. You could say we're in the TV business. You could say we're in the AV business. Some of my more creative colleagues might say that they're in the business of perhaps changing minds, changing attitudes, emotional engagement, those sorts of things. Maybe we're in the advertising business. Well, actually, what I'm going to try and persuade you today is that actually we need to be in the outcomes business. So, let me explain. Anybody know who this is? No, I thought not. I thought I'd be particularly contrarian. Given that this is about the future of TV advertising, I figured I'd start with something from the past. So this is Theodore Levitt, and Theodore Levitt was doing kind of clever stuff at Harvard way back in the 1960s. If you haven't come across Theodore Levitt, you've probably come across this quote. He said, "People don't want to buy a quarter-inch drill, they want a quarter-inch hole." Now, the distinction that he's making here is the difference between a product that is sold, the drill, and the thing that people want, which is the hole. And I think this is of particular relevance to where we are in TV right now. So let me tell you a little bit about that. So advertising and marketing, we all know, right? Advertising and marketing do loads and loads and loads of different things. You can draw it on a funnel, you can draw it on a spectrum. We've chosen to do a spectrum. I'll tell you why. It's because we nicked it from the government. We thought if they were doing this, then this would be probably quite a good little model to steal. And we talk about the difference between outputs, outtakes, intermediate outcomes, and business outcomes. Very simply, that's a spectrum from measuring or counting, if you like, how many people are watching your ad, to what did it do to change their mind, to what did they do as a result, and ultimately, how did that affect their purchase behavior. And we've all known there's a huge body of evidence from the IPA data bank that TV, at its best, when it works really hard, when you have brilliantly, emotionally engaging, fantastically powerful advertising that talks to a lot of people, it does all of these things. So it works on the spectrum from drills all the way to holes. Drills are the things that we sell, right? We sell audiences. Outcomes, the holes, are pretty much what most advertisers want. But we, in TV, I think, have been spending way, way, way too much time talking about the drills bit, okay? We spend a lot of time talking about the best way to measure our audiences. Now, I'm not saying that this is an easy task. It's really difficult. We all know that. It's getting more complicated as people watch TV in a myriad of different kinds of ways. But at best, really where we get to is what does it do to change people's minds? And if we're really honest, actually, measuring things like brand awareness, measuring things like, brand values and the effect that a TV ad had on the way I think about a brand, really that was only ever a proxy for the really, really important stuff. Think about it. No business builds a brand for the sake of building a brand. They build a brand because it builds their business. So these were only ever proxies. Anybody know what this is? No? Any hands at all? Put your hand up. I can see, one at the back. Right, this is, I think that's probably the first time ever in an audience that I've shown this to, that somebody has claimed to know what this is. This is the back end of ads.google.com. Okay? So if you go into the back, if you haven't done this before, I suspect none of you have, try it. Take 20 quid and spend it promoting a web page for something that you know. It could be, I don't know, most people have got a side hustle or a friend with a side hustle or a small business. Spend it and see how this works because it's really compelling. So the place that it starts, look at this. It's just brilliantly designed as an interface. Select the goal that would make this campaign successful to you. First thing that you see is sales. If you don't want sales, you can have leads. If you don't want leads, how about a little bit of web traffic? If not web traffic, maybe a bit of product or brand consideration. And if that doesn't take your fancy, the next place you go is brand awareness and reach. Why would you choose brand awareness or reach if you could have sales? Right? Why would you do that? If you're in the business of building a business, if you're in the business of growth, you would choose sales. Now, the interesting thing about this is it's got even further. So it's on the fringes of what the likes of Google are experimenting with, but now you can buy profit. So I say again, why would you buy brand awareness? Why would you buy eyeballs if you could buy profit? Kind of compelling, isn't it? So that's what the platforms are doing. And put on my spectrum, what the platforms have done is they've created incredibly compelling, very reliable, very predictable, outcome-denominated products. Now, I'm quite new to TV, and one of the things that really shocked me when I landed in TV was the fact that I heard a lot of people, a lot of chat, basically talking about what nonsense the platforms are up to. Now, I'm not going to comment on all of it, but these are brilliant products. Okay? They work. They convince people. The finance people really, really, really like them. So I think at our peril, we ignore the fact that this is the way that the world is going. And if you want proof of that, look at this. Right. This is a chart from Group M. They're all of the other agency groups. I'm sure we'll have something similar. And what this shows you is the growth in the proportion of ad dollars that's going towards digital. That's the pink line at the top. The yellow one at the bottom is telly. Right, this is not telling you anything that you don't already know. We all know, right, that the digital side of the business is growing. That's where the money is going. How about if you recut this, thinking about the difference between products that sell outcomes and products that are denominated in terms of an audience? Well, that looks a bit more like this, okay? And that point there in 2019 is the point at which 50% of the advertising money went to an outcome-denominated product. Now, what happens if you think about this in terms of video? Video surely must be safe, right? Well, it's quite hard to recut this chart. The data isn't really there. But the 2019 data from the Competition and Markets Authority gives us a little bit that we can play with. I'm not going to put it up as a graph on screen, because if I do that, it makes it look like it's certain, and it's not. We've had to make a few little estimates. But based on the estimates that we've made, we think that this year, by the end of this year, by the end of 2023, 50% of all of the money that goes to video in this country will go on an outcome-denominated product. And that, I think, is the reason why TV needs to get into the outcome business. Because increasingly, that's where the money's going. And if we can't persuade people that we can generate those outcomes, then we're just going to get less and less cash. So how are we going to do it? Right, here's my second hark back to the old world as we look forward to the new. We don't have the data, right? All of the platforms have the data. So if you haven't got the data to be able to do this, you've got to use creativity. And in our world, or in my world, thankfully, what that meant was that ITV gave me a little bit of money to hire a team of really, really clever creative thinkers. It's probably no accident that they decided to call themselves the Measurement Innovation Team, which if you collapse becomes MIT. Yes, yeah, exactly. They wouldn't claim they're as clever as MIT, but I think they're probably not far off. And they have a mission, and their mission is to invent ways that reveal all of the value that TV creates for all of our advertisers all of the time. Okay, not a small mission, pretty big one. There's a lot of alls in there. But it's really important that we do that, because fundamentally what we think is that actually for a long, 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 long time, TV has done incredibly well selling itself short, because all we've been doing really is measuring, either the eyeballs or indeed the kind of changes in the way that people feel. So actually, our first insight when we became to think about how we were going to do this was to think about the fact that actually the contribution of TV is massively under-evidenced, it's undervalued. So critically, what we need to do is find much more persuasive ways of arguing the financial benefit of TV. Secondly, TV is still largely traded, right? I work in the sales team at ITV. This is something we talk about all the time. Most of the deals that we do are traded. We don't sell TV. We've never had to sell TV. We've never actively had to make those kind of powerful, compelling narratives. And what that means in this new world is that we have to train our sales team to be able to do that, to wield these kind of stories, to have much more active selling conversations, largely about measurement. And thirdly, the other observation we'd make is that a lot of clients are taking a lot of the data capability in-house. So yes, most of our relationships are with media agencies, but actually what we also have to be able to do is hold our own with those in-house measurement teams. So increasingly, what we're doing is having tripartite conversations around measurement, talking to the measurement analytics teams within clients and those within their agencies as well. So how are we doing? Well, we're making good progress. I gave the team the challenge of give me an easy way to convey the progress that we're making, given that what you do is quite clever. And what they came up with was a star chart, I kid you not. So these are the stars. So what have we done? Well, actually, one of the things that we did this year, which I'm really proud of, we built an enormous model that looked at the impact on site traffic for direct response advertising. And what we found is called the hidden value of peak. Is that contrary to what is the expected and probably the common practice within the direct response advertising world, guess what? Peak generates about 1.4 times as much traffic relative to daytime, even when you take into account the cost of the advertising. So it's kind of building sort of big models like that. That's based on 50 advertisers. We did it with Viewers Logic, and you can download it off the website. We're in the middle of doing a really interesting study, which is looking at the impact of TV on price elasticity and margin. Now, those of you who are connoisseurs of the IPA data bank will know that sometimes, in the best practice of these sort of papers, people tell that story. But it's really, really, really hard to prove. And it's hard to prove beyond the kind of best of the best, which is obviously what the IPA data bank holds. So we're doing a piece of work with Circana. Circana own lots of the sales data for FMCG, and we're doing a model that looks at the past 15 years of FMCG sales data across every category and its relationship to TV. So that should launch slightly later next year, I hope. One of the areas of massive focus for us is this area of intermediate outcomes, so the impact of TV advertising on search. We've got multiple bets in this world. So one of the things about setting up an innovation team is that you place lots and lots and lots of little bets. Many of them don't come off, but hopefully some of them will. So we're doing a lot of work in this area, and the thing that seems to have really powered it is the impact of spot lift on search. So putting those two things together, looking at the way linear drives search, and increasingly, actually, we like a bit of spot lift, looking at spot lift impacts on site traffic. So those are two products that are kind of really beginning to build momentum. And then there's the wonderful legacy of ITV as a regional business. So if you talk to anybody in ITV, most people will tell you that they hate our regional infrastructure. It's big, it's clunky, it's expensive, it's quite difficult to run. Talk to my measurement team, and we love it, right? And the reason that we love it is because it has given us the ability to reinvent the regional test that most of you probably did 15 years ago when you were starting out, and reinvent it for the modern world. So we've now made it twice as statistically sensitive as it was. We ironed out all of the problems with the data on our side. So yes, the regional TV data is quite tricksy. And what we can now do is run geotests where we can look at the impact of the whole of TV across the whole of the funnel. We launched this product about 4 months ago. Since then, we've done 20 or 30 of these studies, and we've got another 40 or 50 lined up to do next year. So it's really beginning to scale and to kind of build some momentum. And then finally, we're doing a lot of work to look at how we integrate the impact of VOD and linear together across the whole of that spectrum. So if you like, total TV measurement. So the team's been going 18 months. We've made lots of progress in terms of the results we're finding, the experiments we're running, our ability to kind of look at multiple different nuanced, complex, difficult to measure sort of impacts of TV. And this, I guess, of all of the things that we found, is possibly my favorite chart. This was the first time we ran a geotest. And this is for a tiny business. And this is why I love it, because actually one of the things that I think we're going to be able to do with this work is bring more advertisers into TV to begin to sort of attack, if you like, that sort of fat end of the long tail. So this is for an advertiser that's based in Glasgow, so regional business, but they wanted to recruit more people in London. And they had absolutely no experience of working in TV at all. They'd done a little bit of search, they'd done quite a lot of paid social. We managed to persuade them to do a small test, and we funded this geotest. And you can see it produces charts like this, which are really nice and compelling if you're a small advertiser in terms of seeing the impact. Now, this might look really simple, but actually the coding that's involved in doing this is really complex. And this is where we get the opportunity to turn this kind of study into stuff that is actually automated. So this involves us having to disaggregate this advertiser's search traffic by ITV region. Yeah, boring, bit complex, all of that sort of stuff, but it reveals stuff like this. And we've got multiple versions of this sort of stuff across advertisers, big and small. So, longer term, what does this all mean? We're trying to do three things. Okay, at the most basic, we want to match what the platforms can do in terms of lift. So incremental lift is absolutely the new default when it comes to measurement. TV's never been very good at it, so if we're going to do anything, we've got to start from that perspective. We've got to just get the basics absolutely right. Then I think we have a fantastic opportunity to really understand and measure the full funnel impact of TV. I said before, we spent a lot of time talking about brands, and I think when we just talk about TV's role being to build brands, we are doing ourselves a massive disservice. We're not in the brand building business, we're in the business building business. That includes brand, yes, but it also includes all of those lower funnel effects as well. And then the final plank of it is really trying to leapfrog the platforms, getting to those really deep financial arguments about how TV works. It is thanks to TV's power to create emotion, to reinforce memory structures, to do all of that wonderful creative stuff that only an audiovisual medium can do, that it can have this kind of full spectrum of effects, and that it can affect things like price sensitivity, like margin, even like lifetime value. And that's where we want to get to, the kind of things that enable us to talk to a finance team and a client and build those compelling arguments to beat the platforms. Because this is the fight for our lives. Genuinely, I believe this. This is why I went to ITV. If you talk to my boss, who's sitting down there, he will tell you that I ranted about pet insurance as a category and why it needed to be on TV. And it is because it is so powerful. And I genuinely think that as a business, as an industry, we have to work harder to prove its effect. So we're making good progress. We've just begun to kind of productize these things. So it's not enough just to do the research. We have to turn them into products that we can roll out to our advertiser base. So we announced a couple of things at our Palooza a couple of weeks ago. But this is not just an ITV product, okay? This is a TV thing. Genuinely, I believe that. Because, you all know, the way that TV is traded means that we as ITV, we only benefit if more money goes into TV in total. And that's why I genuinely think this is a collaborative, collective thing. So please come with us on this journey. We are really, really keen to collaborate, and our ambition is to sell the holes, not the drills. Thank you.
Excellent. I've got one question. As you can see from that audience, that was absolutely a brilliant, compelling reason to move into the outcomes-based game. And you mentioned that we have to compete with the platforms in the way that they do it. Can TV realistically do that, though?
I think if we put our minds to it, and if we put our money to it, and if we collaborate properly, then we have a fighting chance. Yeah, we have a phenomenal product. I think that's the thing that we all forget. It's an incredible thing.
Is it a matter of we've got no choice anyway?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to be here unless we do something really radical, right?
Yeah, and my only issue, well, I've got lots of issues with outcomes, but is that if ITV do it and they're trying to prove what they do over Channel 4, you actually said it right at the end.
We're not
this is for the entire TV industry in the UK.
Yeah. Let's compete on content and collaborate on everything else.
That's a great way to finish. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give Kate another round of applause. That's fantastic stuff.